Hey guys, Steven here from Redolescence and welcome back to another top 10 list. This time it's my top 10 favorite fragrances for the summer of 2014, and this is going to be the niche edition. So no designer fragrances in this list. I do have that list coming, so please stay tuned for that. But this is going to be the niche list. So every year, I think I started last year, I've been doing these videos, and I like to wait until more toward the end of the season in order to film these videos, because I think that that makes for a more accurate list. Whereas if I film it in the beginning of the season and I make the video, I put out fragrances that I think I'm going to be wearing that season, and in the end I discovered that it's not entirely accurate. I probably shoot for like 90% accuracy, but it's always subject to change. So I'm actually kind of glad that I'm doing it a little bit later on in the summer, and these have just been the fragrances that I've been wearing a lot this summer, and I will probably, wear these fragrances in the coming years as well, just because they will be reminding me of this summer. Now, you are going to see some fragrances from last year's list. If you'd like to see that video, I'm going to leave a link here. But there are also some new fragrances, and some fragrances have shifted position in the list. So I hope you enjoy. I'm not going to waste too much time, but I will say that the fragrances in this video are fragrances that are only in my collection. What I mean by that is, I know there are other really great fragrances out there that would be so appropriate for the summer months, like Aquaviva by Parfum Roma, Neo and 1861 by Xerjoff. I think that there's just a multitude of fragrances out there that would work so well in the summer. I just don't have them in my collection. So unfortunately, there are a lot of fragrances that would have made this list if I had them in my collection, but I don't. So these are the ones that I'm working with. These are the top 10 favorite fragrances that I have been wearing, and for a lot of these it is indicative of the level of the juice in the bottle, so I'll make sure to point that out when it does come time to show those fragrances, reveal what they are. So I'm going to start off, I got 3 honorable mentions. My honorable mentions are Coney Island by Bond No. 9, great fruity, salty fragrance that's very evocative of being at the beach and having a margarita. Great fragrance, I've worn that one a lot. Jardin du Poète, which actually made my list last time I filmed this, but it kind of fell out of this list. I do have another fragrance to replace it though, and I'll tell you in a bit what that is. This is a beautiful interpretation of a garden. It smells like cucumber and rose. That's what this fragrance smells like a garden, cucumber and rose, but it actually is very fresh, very enjoyable. And the last one is Virgin Island Water by Creed. This is if you want to smell like lime, coconut, like if you want to smell like a pina colada. Great fragrance to wear at the beach. I've worn this one to the beach several times this year already. So 3 honorable mentions. So right away, I'm going to kick it off with number 10. Now, the reason this fragrance made it number 10 and didn't make it a little bit higher on this list is only because I am kind of hesitant to wear this fragrance out in public. I think it smells great if you can, I don't want to use the word tolerate, but if you have an appreciation or an acquired appreciation for this smell, you will really enjoy it. This one is Cell Marin by Healy. Now, if you've heard anything about this fragrance, you probably know that this is a very salty, very true aquatic fragrance. What I mean by that is, not only is there salt in this fragrance, but you also get like a seaweed vibe from it that really smells like you're out in the middle of the ocean and you're just hit with this salty sea breeze that's very pungent, very strong, and it really captures that essence in this fragrance. So for that reason, I didn't want to smell like fish, or I didn't want to smell too salty wearing it in public, but it really does remind me of, the nautical life and just being out on the sea in the middle of the water. So I like this fragrance, and it really it made my list, and I wore a lot of it. So Cell Marin by Healy, number 10. Number 9 on this list is a fragrance that was a little bit higher up on the list last year. It did fall back a few spots just because I've acquired some newer fragrances that I've been wearing with more frequency, so subsequently, and unfortunately as a result of that, this one has fallen back a little bit. But this one is from the House of Amouage, and it's called Reflection Man. This is my second bottle of Reflection Man. This is a beautiful, spicy, neroli, floral fragrance from the House of Amouage with that incense DNA in the background, but it's more fresh than anything. Great fragrance, smells super natural, not in a alien kind of a way, but it smells very natural. Great fragrance, number 9 from the House of Amouage. It's called Reflection for Men. Number 8 on this list is a fragrance that was also on my list last year. This one, I think, from this house is the brightest, sharpest, cleanest citrus that they have to offer. It's by Bond No. 9. It's called Eau de New York. I love this fragrance. Again, you get petitgrain. Petitgrain is an ingredient that gives you not only a citrusy feel, but also a woodsy feel, because they harvest, I think, from the raw material. They use steam distillation on not only the citrus fruits, but also the bark and the twigs and the leaves. So it smells like the entire plant, as opposed to just the citrus fruit that it would yield. So great smell, really bright and herbal and citrusy. Check it out. Eau de New York translates to New York water by Bond Number 9. So 1098, number 7 on this list is my formal wear fragrance. I always wait until the summer to break this one out. I don't know why. I have worn this one in the fall and winter. I think it would work really well in the fall, but I love wearing this one in the summer, just because I think it does have a lighter feel compared to other fragrances from this house. You'll find out why in just a bit. This is from the house of by Colognes, and it's called Straight to Heaven. So this is their rum-based fragrance. So it does have that alcoholic-y feel in the opening, could be juniper berries and alcohol, and then you have a little bit of spices in the background like nutmeg, and I think cedarwood is a dominant ingredient in this one too. Just a great fragrance, very upscale, very luxurious. It just smells very formal and elegant, and when I'm wearing a suit and tie, this is the one that I reach for the most. Absolutely love it. Again, from the house of by Colognes, it's called Straight to Heaven. And then we have number 6 on this list. Let me make a little bit of room for it. Number 6 on this list is a fragrance that was a little bit higher up on my list last year. And it's funny how these things happen. I expected to wear this one with much more frequency, but the opportunity just did not present itself. But I still think this is an excellent fragrance. This is one of my favorites. And I think it might be my second favorite from this house. This is by Maison Francis Kurkdjian, and it's called Aqua Universalis Forte. Now this is a very floral take on citrus and clean fragrances, but it's white floral, so don't be dissuaded into thinking that this is going to be very feminine. It's actually not. It's a very unisex fragrance. It has a very clean feel, and the clean feeling is due to the florals that are utilized in this composition. I think it's a great fragrance, definitely worth checking out, from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian. It's called Aqua Universalis Forte. So here we go, the top 5 fragrances that I have been wearing this summer, 2014. Really excited to share this list with you. So let's kick it off with number 5. Number 5 is the fragrance that, it's actually the first fragrance that I purchased from this house. I sampled many of their fragrances. Again, this is a Profumum Roma. I know Aqua Viva is the lemon-based fragrance, which I think would work really well. I do have another one that smells very similar to it from the house of, I forget the house. It's called Limoni di Sicilia. Oh, it's by Il Profumi di Firenze. And that actually made my list last year, but I haven't worn that one, so to purchase Aqua Viva would be a little bit redundant. This one, though, is a very different take because it has incense, it has a sweet myrrh, a little bit of cocoa powder, coconut, all along this like orange blossom note. It smells amazing. This is from the house of Profumum Roma. It's called Battito Dali, which means the flutter of wings or the beating of wings. Great fragrance if you want a slightly more sweet take on a summer citrus. That's the fragrance to go for, and for that reason I love my gourmands. Now, not to say that this is a gourmand, but I do like to have my fragrances smell a little bit sweeter from time to time, so that's the reason why I've been reaching for that one so much, making it number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list is a fragrance that could have easily been number 1 this year just because I wore it so much, but it was only topped by those other fragrances. And funny enough, the only reason why it beat out those other fragrances is because I was actually wearing those other fragrances in the spring, and I wore them very heavily in the spring, and I continued to wear them into the summer, so they got a little bit more play out of me. But this one is from the house of Tom Ford. It's called Mandarino di Amalfi. So Amalfi Mandarin. So I did a couple of videos on this. I did a scent of the day that I have not made live yet. I did uncensored, and I did a review on it. And with this fragrance, you do get that, you know, mandarin blossom. So it has a floral component to it too, but it's citrusy at the same time. And then it utilizes an East Asian culinary ingredient, shiso, which is part of the basil family, which gives it that weird, almost culinary quality to it. It's very hard to explain. Just get your nose on it. It's a great fragrance, and it does very well for me. So Mandarino di Amalfi by Tom Ford. So here we go, the top 3 fragrances on this list. I'm very excited to share this with you. This one has been my favorite for many, many years now. I'm actually surprised that it got beat out by these other two fragrances, but I have to be honest with myself. I have not worn this fragrance as much as I've worn it last year, so just want to make an accurate and honest list. This is from the House of Creed, and it's called Millésime Impérial. You've heard about this one. Beautiful salty sea breeze. Some people say they get like a watermelon note from it. It has that citrusy quality to it, salty overtones with a fruity nuance developing in the mid of the fragrance, and then it dries down to a very clean, crisp, and regal smelling ambergris finish that I think contributes to the overall amazing composition that it is. So from the House of Creed, Millésime Impérial. I think it's my favorite Creed, right next to Spice and Wood and Aventus. Millésime Impérial is my favorite Creed. So number 2 on this list is a fragrance that I'm very excited that it made this list. It's never made any of my lists before, but once I got my nose on this, it was love at first sniff. This is a great alternative to Xerjoff's 1861. If you have or own or have tried 1861, I highly recommend you try this out. It is a fraction of the price, and it smells incredibly natural. It is by Alberto Morillas, who has done Acqua di Gio, as well as a few other fragrances that, very reputable perfumer. This is from the House of Eau d'Italie, and it's called Acqua Decima. This is a beautiful, citrusy, minty composition with some floral nuances to it as well, but it really smells like a mojito. So you get the lime, you get the mint, you get somewhat of like a metallic quality. I know it sounds a little nasty, but it's actually very, very natural smelling. It smells very good. I highly recommend you check this one out. I probably am down to 70%, and that's just wearing it one season among all these other bottles, so I have really put it to good use. Acqua Decima from the House of Eau d'Italie. Please make sure you check it out. Such an amazing fragrance. It could have very easily been number 1 this year. But my number 1 fragrance this year, I probably used, I want to say, 75% of the bottle, 70% of the juice. I need a refill on this. I need to get more of this. Honestly, I can't believe that I have worn so much of it. It's just I love wearing it when I get out of the shower. I love wearing it when I go out in public. The longevity on my skin is great. I have absolutely no complaints with this fragrance. It does well in all directions, all aspects, and for that reason it made my number 1. I think it's such a great citrus-based fragrance, but it's not a very unilateral citrus-based fragrance. I think that it has so many other components to it, and it does things in a very unique way. It has gotten comparisons to other fragrances, but I think this one just smells so natural, so good. I would highly recommend that if you have tried this in the past and you dismissed it, please revisit it. It's a great fragrance. Give it some time, and you'll see why. This is from the House of Le Labo, and it's called Bergamot 22. This is where, this is the level of my bottle. It's down to, and if you turn it upside down, you see just how much is left in there. There's really only about 15-20% left in this bottle. I have worn about 70 to 75% of this in one summer alone, which is absolutely crazy. I have never worn a fragrance before with that much frequency in that amount in a summer, but you get the bergamot, you get cedarwood, you have this very clean, crisp vetiver quality to it. I think like a grapefruit note, which just gives it that added effervescence. In the opening, this is such a heavenly scent, and the dry down also allows it to retain this citrus, which is kind of like this silhouette or like a ghost of the citrus, but I just think it works so well. Definitely this was number 1 on my list without question. I brought this to every vacation. I wore this at home when I left. I brought it to islands. Does it perfectly for me. So guys, thank you so much for watching. These have been my top 10 summer fragrances for 2014. This is the niche version. So if you own or have tried any of these fragrances, please let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Also, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, shoot me a message. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you so much for watching. This has been Steven with another video from Red Essence. See you soon.